Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake, joined in the virtual studio on a Monday evening by two chaps who I've been podcasting with now since 2021. 2021 chaps. Johnny, Sambo, how are you?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Yep.
Can't complain.
Doing well.
And if you
Doing very
did,
well.
no one would listen. Nah. I think that's 3 podcasts in a row we've started with that gag.
At least two. It's at least.
Yeah. Get some new material, eh?
Entitled to the sexual proclivities.
Definitely, that's one of our proclivities, that joke. All right, so lots to get into on tonight's podcast, specifically a recap of Geelong's AFLW round 3 game against the Blues. Oh boy. There's a lot to get into. So we're going to recap all of the action from that. Then we're going to duck over to Patreon and probably flesh out our thoughts a bit further. More specifically, we'll take an early look ahead to the game against the Gold Coast Suns this weekend for the AFLW side. We'll probably pepper in a few extra thoughts and things as well. Last week, we talked a bit about the improved performances of Rachel Kearns and Jackie Parry in 2024 as opposed to 2023. So if you want to get in on all that extra stuff, we'd love for you to head over to the Hoops Crew Patreon. We've just hit our season target of 30 Patreon subscribers. So if you want to help us build toward, 40, we'd love to have you over there. And thanks to everyone who's signed up so far. That's right. It's a party over on the Patreon. Massive thanks to everyone who's signed up there. Chaps, of course, there is another group of people we have to thank before we get into the show, and that is our media network sponsor, Cyril Cook Florist. You can visit them, www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au. That's Cook with an E. You can phone them on 035 222 2244, or if you want to get a 20% discount on your next purchase in store, go on over and visit them at Shop 12, 11 Leather Street in Breakwater. Tell them that the Hoops Crew sent you, and you'll get a 20% discount off your next in-store purchase. Would love for you to go and make use of that. Maybe you can send some commiseration flowers to James Sicily and the Hawks, maybe. Yeah, might cheer poor old Sammy Mitchell up. Might need
get some yellow flowers. Yellow flowers combined with some brown natives, some bottle brush or something like that.
Just make sure you get it airlifted to Hawthorn.
It's true.
Maybe a drone
airlifted right out of the finals.
Fly them up to where they are and just,
well, they're not
do it in
heaven,
the shape
John.
of an
They're not
aeroplane.
passed away. They're just knocked out of finals.
Okay, in the shape of an aeroplane.
Wait. They survived the vicious assault put upon them by Ken Hinkley.
Ken Hinkley?
I
Absolute mugging in the street.
They're still reeling from that. Like, I don't think Ginnivan's going to recover from that for at least 6 months.
All right, let's get off the M though. There's plenty of time.
A couple of pints down at the Tats lot.
Off we go to the AFLW, chaps. I did real yeoman's work yesterday on a Sunday. I spent an hour and a half of my Sunday going back, pinching my nose, putting on the gas mask, and going and watching this back. I got to listen to it on the radio live, and so I went back knowing full well what I was in store for.
Johnny and I were the canaries that were sent down the coal mine, and then you got to put your gas mask on. Johnny and I were already dead in the cage.
Exactly.
As I was walking through the mine, I was like, "Oh shit! There's Sam, there's John, the dead canaries on the ground." Then I got to it, the source of what happened. Let's recount.
You realise you should have turned back.
I know, but I had my PPE on. I was being a very very responsible explorer of the caves, a spelunker, as you will. Let's talk about it, chaps. It started and ended and went like this. The Cats and the Blues, a rain-soaked Icon Park, and it was not a game that was soaked in skill, at least early. One behind produced by both sides in a strange, frenetic, messy opening term in some very blustery, as I said, wet conditions. The Blues got the first point on the board. They got the first goal on the board as well, and it was probably much deserved when Matty Guerin kicked one through from about 40 out from the set shot after a minute and a half of the second term. Thereafter, though, chaps, the Cats, they got the game sort of on their terms for a stretch, but could only produce behinds, a rush behind and a point to Amy McDonald. And it felt like that was an opportunity missed, because then the Blues went bang, bang. Mimi Hill and Abby McKay kicked the final two scores, both goals of the first half. That blew the margin out, 3-1-19 to 2 behinds. And I'll be honest, chaps, I was listening on the old wireless, and I said to Jacko, who was eating his lunch at our kitchen table at the time, I said, I think that's game over. The way the conditions were being described on the radio, I just had this feeling that we'd pushed, really hard to try and get back on level terms, missed our chances. Then the Blues shut the door, and that's pretty much how it went. The third quarter, Carlton added 1 goal, 3. They really probably could have put us away further. The 1 goal coming to Tani Brown. They took a 4-4 28 to 3 behinds lead at 3, goalless final quarter. The Blues eventually win it 4-5 29 to 5 behinds. You chaps watched this one live together. Look, obviously we don't want to skew too negative, but you got to sort of call it as you see it. This would have to be, I reckon, the worst game of the Dan Lowther era. So he took over in the first season of 2022, and he's been the coach through that period. I can't remember any losses that were sort of as morbid, I suppose, as this one. I don't mind who gets first crack at this. Just one of you take it.
Yeah, lowest score in the AFLW's history now, 5 points, which is, it was a tough one to watch. Early
was
on,
that by us? Our lowest score in our history?
Our lowest score in our history.
Okay.
Of the AFLW.
Yeah. By
2 points. Our previous lowest was 7 points in 2019, I think. So tough watch. And I think the main issue was just not being able to use the ball that well. There was so many times when it looked like we were going to get out with a good handball to a player, and they'll just drop it. I think they counted 10 plus times that happened the first quarter and a bit, where they're in a good position, there's a good handball out, and they just couldn't hold on to it, and it just brought the pressure from the Blues. And it's just one of those games where nothing went the Cats' way, really, and they, no matter what they tried, it just couldn't work. Blues pressure was pretty outstanding. They definitely brought everything they could to win this game, and the Cats were just languishing in pretty mediocre format, really. And I would say it's probably the worst game I've seen this team play for a long, long time. It's hard to pick out players that really stood out and stepped up, except for the obvious choices in Amy McDonald. Nana Morrison played pretty well. I thought Rachel Kearns was pretty handy, but it was a tough outing, this one, and in a pretty disappointing way to end the first 3 games. It's going to be tough to get this season back on track, and they've got to really dig deep next week if they want to have any chance of playing finals now. So it's going to be a tough ask, but after this performance, it's hard to see them playing any worse. So I guess the positive is it's all up from here. It's all uphill, and hopefully it is, because that was pretty dreadful. And I think they'll look back on this and learn a lot and have to review it pretty hard to know where to fix the issues and whatnot. Which, yeah, it's just a disappointing way to watch it and end the Saturday on, to see this team just really struggle and to get in the conditions and against the Blues.
Yeah. Sambo, obviously going to come to you here, but just to sort of wedge a little thought between you guys. Obviously, the Blues had, plus, was it 29 disposals, and plus 12 inside 50s. They went inside 34 times to our 22. But a lot of things were very similar. 17 free kicks each, the clearances 29, 28. Turnovers 63 each, marks 24 to them, 26 to us. We actually smashed them in tackles. That's not that surprising, 95 to 72. But like, there were parts of the game that were very close, and I've sort of got sort of more detailed thoughts on that. But just to handball to you here for your opening statement, what were your sort of feelings and takeaways, thoughts, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, largely similar to John's. It's pretty tough watch. We generally try to keep things positive, but not from a head in the sand kind of way, I guess, is what I keep sort of telling myself when I'm feeling like we shouldn't be negative about it, but it's kind of like, well, you be critical of the things that aren't working, and you be, but do it in a constructive way. I think it's not like they won't know. They're gonna feel
Sure.
awful about this. So we're not trying to pile on anyone here. I'm not gonna question anyone's effort, or intent. And yeah, as I said, I think they know they'll be going away thinking about that, but I'm sure they will review it hard, like you were talking about, John. But it almost, to me, there's part of my mind that goes, this might be one of those results that's almost like just like the Bulldog in the AFLM game against the Bulldogs, where you go, that just doesn't mean anything. Just put that one away and move on. I don't know. Like, I don't think they will, actually. I think they will analyze it real hard, but I wouldn't begrudge them, because there's nothing in the last 3 seasons to indicate that this is some kind of trend, some kind of underlying issue that this can happen. Like, this was an outlier for mine. Like, this just didn't feel at all like this team, especially, the Dan Lowther era Cats. It just didn't sort of marry up at all. I think the conditions obviously played into it. I think I'm starting to have to concede that the sheer out is a bigger out. Not a bigger out. I knew it was a big out, but it's a bigger issue, and underlying issue going forward into this season. For all the reasons we spoke about, with the pressure on Maloney, and just the way, the versatility of Sheer too, that she could be the one delivering it as well, not only the one just sort of standing up and receiving it. I think she's a big out.
Yeah.
And the way the conditions, you couldn't settle into the conditions either. It was cold and windy, and then it was bucketing down rain, and then it was sunny, and they were playing in the sun, and it was humid, and then it was bucketing down rain again. Like, they couldn't, and obviously Carlton were playing.
And hail.
Yeah, and Carlton were playing the same thing, so I'm not using that as an excuse fully, but because Carlton handled the conditions brilliantly. Again, to relate it to that Bulldogs game in the AFLM, I remember during that game, you're like, I know why we're playing this badly in these conditions, but how are the Bulldogs playing this well in these conditions? How is everything sticking? And it was a little bit like that, although only sort of in the sort of second half of the second quarter onwards for me. Like, during the second quarter, the commentators were talking about how much Geelong were being controlled, etc. And I didn't see it that way. I'll be honest. I hadn't given up on the game at that point, when we were still within a couple of kicks. And early on, when it was that sort of war of attrition and no one could get a goal, I felt like we were really just not looking likely in the forward half. Like, I felt like we were actually defending really well. I thought we were transitioning really well from defense to midfield, and sort of getting over that halfway line. And then it was just that final, like, it just never looked like we could get a good real dangerous look in the inside 50. And I actually felt like in that position going, we've only really got one thing to fix here, which is that if we can keep defending this way and transitioning out of defense this way, I think we could basically do what they did, which was basically I thought that we could just pile on a couple of goals, chip away until we got our sort of confidence up and then run away with it. But it just never happened. And then some of it was just I don't know if it was luck, like it was a bit of execution, a bit of decision making, and then luck on top of it. Because it was like I felt like we would do a great hand pass to the wrong player, and then you do a poor hand pass to the right player. And like and then sometimes they would do a good hand pass to the right player, and the player would drop it, couldn't grab it. It was like those three things just kept repeating over and over again where you go, that looked like a really good hand pass, clean pickup
Yeah.
hand pass, but you've hand passed it straight to Rebecca Webster amongst three other defenders, three other Carlton players, or not to. I think even I thought Webster did really well. She's spoiler alert, she's definitely in my votes, but
Yeah.
she did it a couple of times where she did some great stuff, crumbed it, turned out of trouble, and then hand passed it to a Cats jumper. But it was not the player to hit in that moment. They were like under pressure straight away, and so much of that intensity that Carlton were putting on us was we were feeding into that so much. So it was just one of those things that was. Yeah, so it was frustrating, but you just not frustrating from a, I was annoyed at the players. Like I was frustrated for them too. Like I could imagine that would just be so, um, such a snowball effect where you're not confident, and then you're doing the wrong thing, and it's hurting your confidence more, and then you do the right thing, but it doesn't work out. So yeah, I mean I've got more thoughts, but we should move on because I've rambled enough.
I really felt like that end to the second quarter was where it really came undone.
Yeah.
Like if you sort of go back and look at the score worm, we competed so well, as you said, I thought we defended quite well in that first quarter. Like they had a lot of ball and I thought we defended well. Something that struck me at times was we actually made some really good kicking decisions coming out of the back 50 that could have transitioned us really quick, but it was a drop mark, I just thought you saw a lot of those, where Kearns or a Chantal Eamonson or someone would just hit a beautiful raking ball and you go, oh, wow, they've actually in these conditions, because the commentary on radio, they were saying the Cats just they haven't adapted their game. And I was thinking, watching it back of like, yes, maybe. But then I actually thought we executed up to a certain part of the game. It was just then that it was occasionally let down by a skill error that then, kind of unspooled the whole thing. And like, those were moments that stuck out to me where I've got sort of just going, wow, great aggressive kick. Bugger, we've just dropped the chest mark, an uncontested chest mark. I thought the ball looked like it was pumped up with helium when we were trying to pick it up. So many times where we're just sort of bending down to pick it up and it just bounces over our shoulder or just like at a right angle. But yeah, I just thought that second half, so the second quarter, after Maddie Guerin's goal at a minute 39 to sort of the 12.5-minute mark when they goaled again to Mimi Hill, that was sort of a 10-minute patch where I felt like Geelong lifted. We had repeat inside 50s. We had chances to goal. We brought I thought it was some of our best pressure inside our forward 50, and we just didn't get the reward for it. And then they went back and just sucker punched us. And I thought after that it was, as I said, I thought it was sort of game over when they got their third goal, given the conditions. I just a note, I suppose, before I throw back to you, Chaps. Johnny, I thought you said something interesting earlier of like, I think you said something about, you don't want to sort of single out players or maybe you're talking about, that the usual suspect sort of stood up. I agree totally. And I'd even go further to say, like, I actually saw a lot of things from individuals that I really liked. I thought, you saw things from like Rachel Kearns, like some of her best footy. I think she's now, vying with Claudia Gunjaka to be one of our most dangerous weapons in the back half. I love that she's sort of.
Oh,
Oh,
we've lost Jake. What a cliffhanger! What do you
what a
love?
cliffhanger!
What do you love? Love that she's done what? I don't know if Jake's going to return, so maybe we'll push on because he's
Push on.
frozen. He's frozen
He's
there
frozen
in
big time.
what looks like mid sneeze. Like he's just done a big sloppy sneeze.
Absolutely.
It's a shame to push on because we'll leave him behind. But there's a little movement there. I just while Jake's frozen and he's talking about Kearns. I'm wondering, and I don't know for sure here, but it looked to me like Kearns was often sort of not the whole game necessarily, but rotating back and playing a bit of the intercept defender, like
Yeah, definitely.
and I thought she did it pretty well too, but I thought it probably took away a little bit from Claudia Gunjaka's game. Like I think she has found a home doing that, and she's looked so good doing that. And it was almost a little bit like the Radigalia Tom Stewart sort of situation where I went, I mean, it's not quite like that because I
No.
don't think I ever really liked Radigalia being in there, but like Kearns and Gunjaka are both really good players. But I start to wonder if we're losing a little bit of cohesion with that, where like they're not necessarily adapting as quick because they're swapping around and taking turns or whatever it is they were doing, because sometimes it looked like Gunjak pushed really far up. But yeah, how do you think that's what was happening, John? And do you think that's kind of like just something I'll have to get
Yeah.
used to, or did you even notice it? Do you think, or was that just something that I kind of felt?
I sort of noticed it that she was
Welcome
playing
back,
more
Jake.
of that sweeper type role, which, as you said, did a pretty good job at. And maybe it was just causing a bit of confusion back there, or maybe it was just a circumstance of the game, the way Carlton would just hold it in there, but it just got themselves out of a bit of position here and there throughout the game, which could happen when the ball's coming in that quickly, that often. It's wet, it's slippery, and stuff happens. And yeah, Claudia definitely didn't have her best game. Like there was a few moments that you just look at it and go, "That's not something she would do
Well, I would
week
say
after week."
she just looked unsettled, which I
Yeah,
don't think I've felt about her for 2 to 3 seasons, since she's sort of
no,
found that home playing there. She's looked, regardless, it was always kind of about, okay, now skill execution and, just
yep,
improving in general, which I think she was doing. And I felt like in this game, she just looked a bit more like a bit frustrated. So
yeah,
it could just be the game itself, because it would have been frustrating. But I also just theorized that, with the emergence of Kearns, and as Kearns is playing better and sort of coming in, shouldering in on that role a little bit, if Claudia maybe is feeling like she's not as clear in what her role is, and not as at home, because it's such an important thing, in my opinion, for a
yeah.
player in a team to know exactly what they bring and what the team requires of them. So although I think individually they're both really good, and I thought Kearns did really well, I do wonder if Claudia is going to just have to get used to that, or maybe add some other strings to her bow, so she can also, provide different things when Kearns is maybe taking on that role.
I'm not sure. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one to see if they continue on with it, because I still really like Kearns off that half back. And I'm just thinking maybe it was just circumstances. She had to play it a little bit deeper. And yeah, obviously, did if it did happen, Claudia just wasn't prepared for it, or wasn't settled enough for it to happen. Because yeah, it was just those. Like I still thought she played a good game. She just had one pretty bad moment where she would go, "That was the bad
Yeah.
decision," where it was deep. There's an understandable mistake, because you're in deep in your back half, time's against you. You just got to get it moving. You
Yeah,
got
like that
tunnel
that
vision.
that moment that's probably gone down as a howl or whatever you want to
I'd just say just an
like
error
a
of
bad
judgment, really.
decision. Like I think it was in a lot of ways indicative of
Under pressure.
how switched on Carlton were actually, because on in live when you watched it you went, oh god, what do you know, what a poor decision. And then on the replay you go, the speed at which the Carlton player sees she's playing on, reacts to it, and then gets to her to lay the tackle is actually incredible. Like I don't think every other player does that. So I think it's unfortunate. Really, I don't know 100% that it was the right
I'll just say it
decision, but
was,
I think it was the right intent. Because I
Yeah.
think what we were doing was we were getting a little bit sucked into over possessing sometimes. I thought, and for mine, that's backed up by some of the stat lines of the players. Like some of our players with the most disposals have surprisingly low meters gained. So I think there was also some disposal padding happening. And so I think her instinct to go, let's catch them out. And
I thought
was on. It was just one of
Yeah.
those, it was just a bad moment that the Carlton player was switched on, and she's just like half a second behind in pulling the trigger on the kick.
as I said, it was one of those decisions where it goes, it makes sense. You want to get it out of there. You want to make it move. You see a player. Unfortunately, it just didn't.
And
It's
that's
just one of those games where it's not going your way. These mistakes just happen where you just you're just not aware of what's happening. You may not be aware of what's happening around you, or you're focused on getting out of there instead of looking to around you, which happens. It happens, and
and she did
completely
sort of throw her
understandable.
hands up. So I think
Yeah.
maybe she was saying, where was my
Where was
communication?
my support?
Where was someone telling me that? And to be fully clear, like that moment, or if she had other moments, aren't the moments that I
I
think
think it was
were
just a one
bad
moment.
about her game.
Yeah.
Or that she had a bad game even. It was just that she just didn't look, you just never saw her able to like swoop in, take a clean mark, obviously because the conditions that hard, but a clean possession or like a clean spoil even, and like she just like seems to feed on that. Like I feel like when you watch her other days, once she's done one of those, her confidence just starts building and building and building, and you can see she really loves that jog back to position after she's come across and hit an intercept. It just builds her confidence so much. So I just didn't see any of that. So it could be game related, but I also felt like it could have also been that sort of that shifting of the positions that they did. But welcome back, Jake. We were vamping.
Oh, that's all right. I just had a cat climb into the shelving and disconnect my internet cord.
Nice.
So, that was
good on
ideal. Perfect time.
Cats causing power out.
That's right.
Indicative of what happened on the weekend.
Right.
It's just not going our way.
Oh, I was thinking a couple
I
of
was thinking
Thursday
the
nights
power.
ago. I just sort of started to talk about Kearns down back and that sort of thing, but I guess my takeaway was that there were good individual efforts, and actually I could probably find a lot of things for even 85% of players that went, oh, really like that, like those signs, like the way Anna Rose Kennedy, another tick for me. In terms of how her one-on-one defending is developing. Like, I think we've unlocked a terrific, weapon down back. Both in her, I think she could guard tall, and she's athletic enough to compete and fight for it and win it once it hits the deck. Obviously, disposal skills need to be worked on, but something that I suppose struck me was not that I felt like, the vast majority of Geelong's players had poor individual games. It was that as a team, I thought we were very, very disconnected, and we very rarely got on the same page. There are maybe 2 moments, 3 moments in the whole game where you thought, oh, there it is. There's the game plan not only being executed, but looking really dangerous. And that's living off crumbs in a full game of AFLW footy. So that's I suppose that is what's shocked me more than anything. Like I see sometimes on Twitter, you know, people are being particularly harsh about, you know, player A, B, or C. But to me, it's not been really. Look, there's probably a couple of individual players that make me hearken back to a conversation that we had even maybe 1.5 seasons ago. That when you're a team that's been down near the bottom of the ladder and you build up to success, that not necessarily all of those legacy players will make the jump and be a part of your next flag.
Mm.
You know, I think you go back to the 2006 Geelong Cats and, you know, players like Peter Riccardi, terrific player for a long time, was a foundational piece of setting up so much stuff, retired, we won a flag the next year. Like, that's not a knock on Riccardi, but just saying that I do probably think, and I'm not going to give, you know, names because I don't want to single people out, but I think there's probably a small handful of players that I think I sort of go, have we seen their peak? And was their peak very much good enough when we were working our way through the early and middle parts of this process from climbing out of the cellar to competing at the pointy end? And now the question being is there room for that player to grow? And if not, is their peak still a part of our best 23
Mm.
or best 24? How many players? It's I know, sorry, it's a different number of players on the game day selection for the W, but yeah, just the team synergy seemed a little bit off for mine.
Yeah.
And as you
Yeah.
mentioned, Sambo, like Sheer being out is a massive issue, as it seems.
It's definitely rearing its head at the moment, or in this game, it definitely was rearing its head. That every time we went inside 50, it just seemed like they had a good target in a good position, and that's to do with Carlton's pressure defense. I think anything the Cats tried to do, Carlton were just on it straight away. So it's not to take away from anything from Carlton; they were just on us the entire game. And I thought, as I said early in the game, felt like we had these
Mm.
moments where we could get the handballs going, get the chain of handballs going, but each time it's just a small error which brought the pressure. And then when that does happen, you're thinking that, oh, when I go get this handball receive, am I going to drop it again? That just became so contagious throughout the team. That pressure of not making a mistake, of just not holding on to the ball, just went
Mm.
straight through the team, and just those skill errors of not being able to take a mark, or not being able to pick up the ball, or just being that little bit too fast or too slow to get to the ball to pressure. And just, yeah, it was just one of those games where I thought Carlton were absolutely on top of us from the start. They pressured us really well, and we just couldn't execute the skills when required to. And
Mm.
even when we did look really good throughout the midfield and getting out of the fence a few times, there was just no one in the forward line to go to, and just sort of broke down, and Carlton were able to exit pretty easily and handily. And then when you do have those shots and goals, there's also that extra pressure of going, if we get this, we can get back into the game, can't miss it. And it just, yeah, just, as you said, Sam, it might be one of those games where they don't review it, but I've got a feeling they'll probably want to review this pretty heavily and see where it all went wrong. And I think where it started was just Carlton's pressure, and then it just continued to happen, and Carlton reaped the rewards, and we sort of got stuck in this stagnant area of not being able to move the ball cleanly or efficiently.
I have to say, I thought we were very slow to try and positionally get Aisling Maloney in the game. As I was watching it, I was waiting for her to get a touch, and she didn't get on screen that I saw until one of the very last acts of the opening quarter. They put a ball inside 50, and she sort of chased onto a loose ground ball, I think, or tried to chase down a defender who got onto a loose ground ball. And I thought, like, can we not pull that lever a little bit earlier? Like, I don't know about you chaps, but I just don't tend to see Aisling as, pardon me, you know, this one trick pony of like, she's a big, tall forward, so we've got to keep her as the deepest option. she's more athletic than that. She's more damaging and
Right.
dangerous and dynamic than that. Like I thought they did what I asked at one point. They put her in the ruck in the second half. And I actually thought she competed quite well for someone who has, probably played less ruck time than I mean, if she's only played footy for 18 months or whatever it is to, best part of 2 years, she's done a lot less ruck time than that, particularly in an actual game situation. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just sort of feel like, hey, like we've got Jackie Parry in the side. Um, if we really want another big, a key tall to sort of lock down that deepest option, why not try and get Aisling around the ball a bit more, or out on a wing, or in the ruck, or I don't know, just something to get her involved, because I feel like she's a player that she makes the opposition worried when she's near the ball, and she's just as much of a creator as she is a finisher. I thought we were a bit lethargic in pulling that particular lever for mine.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
I think some of the best games we saw her play last year were on that like wing half forward area where she could impact the midfield and sending inside 50. I think that was where she was really excellent last year. And I think not having Chloe Shear, it feels like the obvious choice is to put Ashley Maloney in the forward line because she's tall, she's got a good mark, she's athletic.
sure.
But yeah, it's just not working, unfortunately, at the moment. So yeah, I agree. I reckon get a bit more in that midfield wing area, half forward area as well, just so she can impact a little bit more when it's not going our way.
I don't know about you too, but I thought some of the Irish players actually took the right approach to the game in terms of just get it moving quickly and long by foot.
Yeah.
Like obviously Kearns, that's just her just what she does. I think she had 13 touches and 12 of them were kicks. But I also thought Aisling Maloney, 12 disposals, 11 by foot. So you combine those two, 25 disposals, 23 of them by foot between Kearns and Maloney. Anna Rose Kennedy, 7 disposals, 5 by foot. So I just thought they kind of understood that of just like, let's just get it moving our way. And I even liked that about Aisling. If, she might not have won a clean hit out, but she was able to then just rip the ball out and just snap it back across her shoulder. I just think we probably could have rolled with a bit more chaos, but chaps, let's get into some votes because I feel like there's going to be more to discuss, but we can discuss it on the Patreon part. Start off with your one vote. Who did you go for? Sambo lead us off, then Johnny, and then me.
I actually went with Chantal Eamonson, a player that only
Nice.
had 10 disposals, but I think she laid 6 to 8 tackles, 8 tackles. And I just I thought she was the one that got the idea of how to play this game, which was to intercept, to mark, to get a possession on that halfback, take a couple of steps if you can, and try and just not switch the angle, not talking dangerous like lateral kicks, but just kick across into a bit of space, gain some territory, and let our fierce mids battle it out. She wasn't too fussed, I don't think, with getting clean chest marks and moving it up like a chess game. But it also wasn't just absolutely hacking it out. Like they were really good, incisive kicks with a sort of forward momentum to them. And yet she only had 10 disposals, and yet she had the second highest. She had the highest meters gained for the team. So of 10 kicks, she gained 331 meters. Next closest is Rebecca Webster with 313 off 23 disposals.
Nice.
And just to compare that again, not like, and I know this person is in votes, and this person also tried her guts out all day and had a real hot go at it. But I think it's just the difference between Emonson's of 10 disposals to 331 meters gained to then say Nina Morrison, who had 24 disposals but only 249. I think Morrison was trying her guts out, and it was absolutely a vote worthy performance, but I think she was playing a game that wasn't happening on that field, if you know what I mean. Like I think she was trying to play it in a way that maybe wasn't as conducive as I felt like Chantal Eamonson's was. But that's just my sort of
I like
takeaway.
And just to add a little footnote to that thing about Nina Morrison, it's the tricky thing sometimes with great players like Nina Morrison's handling and ability to kick and deliver really great kicks. Not that sort of pinpoint, say 15-meter, 20-meter kick. She's an elite player, but you've got to remember that not everyone on your team is Nina Morrison. So it's great that you can play, wet weather footy like that, but not everyone on the team can. And I think she was actually one of the players that I remember hitting a couple of beautiful, little chip kicks that were just fumbled by a teammate. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Johnny, who did you have as your one vote?
I had Rachel Kearns.
She was close for me.
She was, I just thought it was a really positive game by her. And as you said, Jake, one of the Irish girls knew what to do, knew how to play this game. And I thought, Kearns was definitely one that played a really good game, worthy of a vote, and didn't diminish her style or how she goes about it at all, and was putting full effort in throughout the entire game and applying good pressure, leading the defense nicely, and just trying to lift the team to a position to get some points and a victory, but just wasn't able to do everything that a match-winning game can do from defense. But what she was able to do was really good, and sets the season on a good platform to go ahead. So that was a bit of a
I agree.
word salad there.
I'm with you. I like it. Yeah, she's been one of my favorites since she came into the side, and hopefully we just continue to see good growth from her. I gave my one vote to Michaela Bowen. I just thought that she again, is not a player that's ever going to take over a game and have 28 touches and 7 or 8 clearances to win it off her own back. But she did what she needed to do. Like she had 17 disposals, 8 by foot, 9 by hand, 3 marks, 11 tackles, to lead the game. Played nearly 90% of time on ground, 6 intercept possessions. I just thought she provides 1 or 2 moments in every game that that have the potential to be team lifting. Like she's a violent tackler, within the rules, obviously, but different players bring different levels of ferocity to their tackling. And I just think she can never be questioned in the way that she goes about it and endeavors to try and lift the side. So yeah, I thought she was good for 1 vote for me. Let's snake back, chaps. I'll lead us off here on the second one. I had Amy McDonald. Obviously, it's so funny, isn't it? She was held, quote unquote, to 19 disposals, but still has 9 tackles and I believe a team high, if not a game high, was it? It was a game high, 9 clearances. Not her best game, but she was one of the best on the park for the Cats. Her ability to twist and turn and get out of trouble, like every time I'm just like, oh no, she's going to run us out. Oh no, she's fine. Yeah, I thought she was good for 2 votes. The obvious choice.
She's a freak, and that's why I'm giving her my 2 votes as well. Same reasons.
I have also given her my 2 votes. I do think that I think she probably suffered from the same thing as Morrison a little bit, in my opinion, that sometimes the kicks she was playing were like a bit pie in the sky for the science, the data that we were getting of what was going to happen when you did X in this game. Like I felt like sometimes just a bit longer on those disposals. Like it was, she's really good at doing neat little kicks, little chip kickers over the top, turning a tackle. But the problem is, and I know that this can happen too, if you kick it long to the wrong spot, you're dealing with basically the same thing. But if you kick it short and it's fumbled and contested and you lose it, you haven't even gained territory. You haven't even given your sort of backline a break. And I think that was happening a lot where we've got the game congested up. There was shirts everywhere, and our kicks and our hand passes would come out. But because it wasn't a clean possession, we were just the same group of people was then still in the play of like Amy McDonald kicked it and then probably had to chase and do a tackle on the where her kick just landed. Whereas if they had just sort of just kicked it that little bit longer, if there isn't a clean mark and it's brought to ground, you've brought another group of players in. Maybe you've brought your half forwards or your full forwards or whoever it is. You've brought more people into it to be effective, as opposed to just this. It just felt like I kept seeing the same 6 players having to just like run themselves ragged because we couldn't move. It was like a rugby scrum moving up the field.
Yeah.
But that being said, she's a legend, and it's gonna shock me one week if she doesn't get any votes because she's just that good.
I believe she is yet to miss polling from any member of the Hoops crew this year. So, Sambo, who was your 3 votes?
My 3 votes were the player that I think I picked to have the biggest impact was Rebecca Webster. I didn't think it was quite the lofty highs that I thought we were going to get. Like, I think I called it maybe like a reasonably late breakout game. But I think if she turned in this performance in a game that we'd won, where some of what she was doing was then turning into, into fruits, then it could be that game. Like, we could be looking at it more like, how bloody good was she? But yeah, I thought she was everywhere. I didn't think her sort of work rate and her ethic, or even her demeanor was at all soured across the game. Like, I never saw her hanging her head or hands on hips or anything like that. Like, her drive was just ever present, and I thought she was really doing the things that when I've predicted her a couple of times to get the most disposals. This is kind of why I see her as a player that can, play halfback, move up, go into the middle, go on ball, move around onto the flanks and have a wing, run up the wings, push forward, and play as like as a bit of a lockdown half forward when we're in attack. She, use her tackling power and her kick to sort of lock it in there. And I thought she was trying her absolute darndest to be that player, to rip the ball out of a contest and smash it on the boot and try and get something going. And she also laid 8 or 9 tackles or something too, I think.
Yeah. Good performance by Becky Webster. How many tackles did she lay?
So no, she had 5. She had 5. I was thinking of Amy McDonald. McDonald had 5.
Yeah, Rebecca Webster. What a player! What a game! What a performance by her to stand
future
up in
captain.
tough conditions. Absolutely. Playing in that midfield half-back role really suits her. Just so dynamic from there, and it's the same reason why I'm giving her my 3 votes. Just a solid. She's having such a solid season. The first 3 games alongside Amy McDonald, but them 2 together, pretty deadly combination. Even when the game's not going our way, they still linked up pretty well together. But trying to work with each other through the middle, but it just wasn't working as well as it normally does. But the way they went about it the entire game was just testament to their skill, their profession, how professional they are about it, and how passionate they are for the Cats to continue to be a good team. And they're not gonna. She's not gonna lie down taking this result. She's gonna go back to the training field and get better and better alongside all the other players because they're not going to take this line down. But I thought, Rebecca stood up big time throughout that game and had some big moments. So good on her. Another absolute excellent game. If there wasn't an Amy McDonald in this team, I think Rebecca Webster would be one of the obvious choices.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think Sambo called this a few seasons ago. Becky Webster, future captain of the Cats AFLW side, and I definitely, I she'd have to be
You
the
can see it.
favorite to me whenever Megatron, hangs it up or steps aside or whatever it is. Hopefully, carries a Premiership Cup off into retirement at some point. Becky Webster's right there, and she's just getting better and better season on season. We talked about this in the Patreon section. She's my 3 votes as well, by the way. But
Nice.
she's averaging 20.3 disposals per game to career high for a season. Her career average is 15.9. She's above her career average disposal efficiency. She's above her career average tackles per game by 1.2 tackles per game. Up on meters gained career by about 90 meters gained per game. And if you flick over to more advanced stats, things like your intercepts, etc., these are the only stats I have access to for the AFLW. Averaging 8.3 intercepts this season, 2.9 career. Last year was her previous career high of 5 per game. So she is just getting better and better. Rebound 50s is another one, up to 3.7 this year. Her career average is 1.3. So, 3 votes was an easy choice for me for Becky Webster.
Yeah.
And I thought she was Geelong's best player, and I think she can develop into one of those obvious choices for the Cats and our votes in the future. All right, that's all from us here on the public part of the show. Going to duck over to Patreon right now. Remember to keep your eyes and ears out for us because we're going to be back with 2 episodes on Friday. We'll probably be recording them late Thursday night after teams drop, but Friday morning you'll have an AFLW preview pod releasing. That will be Cats v the Suns, round 4. Cats, really looking for a first 4 points of the season. And then Friday evening, once you knock off work, the AFL men's prelim final. We're into another prelim. Our preview for that will drop Friday evening, so you can get stuck into that in time to get up to speed for the match. As usual, we'll play you out with our favorite 4-legged friend, the halftime horse. Thanks so much for watching, listening, subscribing. Hit that button, the subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time.
Flowers.
That's right. Buy some flowers for a sad Hawk supporter.
Absolutely.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.
You get your cordial, your lollies are a spray from the coach. Lollies, absolutely. So you get your cordial, you get your lollies are a spray from the coach. Lollies, absolutely.
That's what halftime's about.